Welcome to episode 2 of the Kori J Podcast. Today we got 2 special guests joining the show. My brother Ill Will and my other brother Curt Chris the God joining the show today. Today we're going to talk about the rookie class coming into this season in the NBA. What rookies impressed us during the NBA Summer League? Who do we think the Rookie of the Year is going to be for next season? And also, we're going to get into a heated debate on the seeding in the Eastern and Western Conference. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's talk about the incoming Rookie 2019 class in the NBA. There were some pretty impressive guys in the Summer League this year. And I want to get you guys' thoughts. What do you guys think on the rookie class, and who impressed you so far?
Well, first impressions, Jaren Jackson Jr., the first Summer League game was very impressive, but then for the remaining part of the Summer League, I personally thought he was mediocre or fell off a little bit. But who I'm impressed by the most, because this young fella went through adversity, he overcame, is Trae Young. And that's my pick for this upcoming 2019 NBA season for Rookie of the Year is Trae Young. And I believe the Atlanta Hawks are going to give him the keys to the car, so to speak, and let him learn on the fly and put up as many shots as he wants. It reminds me just what his coach did at Oklahoma. So I think he's going to be in a familiar situation, comfortable, and he's going to be able to learn on the fly and put up amazing numbers just like he did in college.
Hi, it's Curt here. My take on the rookies in the summer league, I would say that I was most impressed with DeAndre Ayton, and I'm also gonna go with Jaren Jackson Jr. I think just like Trae Young, he's going to have a lot of playing time, a lot of minutes with the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's going to give him a great shot at taking the Rookie of the Year trophy. Also, I gotta go with. I also gotta speak on Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox for the New York Knicks. He's definitely, especially with the injuries to Porzingis, I think he's going to get an opportunity to take a lot of shots and show some of his talents. This rookie class is loaded. I mean, we could speak on guys like Colin Sexton, Aaron Holiday, who showed, big-time game. Wendell Carter for the Bulls also.
I agree with that one.
And Marvin Bagley also showed some things on some good signs that he's going to be a player to be reckoned with in the future also.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to pick off where Curt Chris left off at, I think this is going to be a really exciting rookie class. Like you said, a guy like Wendell Carter to me was kind of surprising. Yeah. He fell down to pick number 8 at the Bulls. And I was a little skeptical at first. He is kind of an undersized center. He's around 6'9", legit. They say he's 6'10", 6'11", but he's about 6'9" in height. So I was a little skeptical as far as the Chicago Bulls pick. But he was really impressive to me. He seems like he could be a good rim protector in the league. A little bit more mobile than I thought he was going to be. It seemed like he's coming into the season in really good shape. So I would say Wendell Carter Jr. was the guy that improved his stock the most to me in terms of what I thought of him, before he started playing in the summer league. Also, Colin Sexton, he was, I knew he was already a good competitor coming out of college. This guy's going to compete. I'm not sure if you all remember the game he played for Alabama where they played, 4 against 5, and
they almost won.
Right, Colin Sexton almost carried them to a win. So that guy, he's going to compete. Especially the funny moment he had against the Lakers in the summer league. With the little sumo defense that he tried to play against Josh Hart. So I think that guy's definitely going to be a competitor. As far as my Rookie of the Year pick, I got to go with Kevin Knox. Chris touched on it a little bit, but I think with Porzingis being out probably most of the season, he's recovering from his injury. I think Kevin Knox is going to have an opportunity to take a lot of shots. The Knicks, they don't really have a lot of depth at the small forward position, so I think he's going to play a lot of minutes with him, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Frank Ntilikina. I think they'll be a nice trio to build around while Porzingis is out and sort of develop that chemistry. But that's my pick for Rookie of the Year, Kevin Knox. You guys want to make any comments about that?
Yeah, I wanted to ask any of you, have you guys seen Jerome Robinson of the Clippers?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him.
I've seen a little bit of his game.
Yeah.
He had a nice shooting touch from what I've seen, and he seemed like he could be a solid scorer for the Clippers to me, but I haven't watched that many Clippers Summer League games. Did you think anything else about him?
Okay. I've just been hearing a lot of the experts speaking on him as if he's going to be a player to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you all think about Ill Will's Trae Young Rookie of the Year pick? I mean, I'll admit, watching Trae Young's first 2 Summer League games, he kind of started off really slow, and he seemed like he was adjusting to the speed of the NBA. He kind of was forcing a lot of shots, but the 2 most recent games that I've seen Trae Young play, yeah, he can get to any spot on the court that he wanted to. I've seen him get to his spots a lot throughout the Summer League, and he didn't make all the shots, but he got some pretty good shots off. And so I think that can translate to the NBA when you're going to be playing with better players, and you're not going to be able to double team and things of that nature. So I think that's definitely going to help Trae Young out in Atlanta. And that's also another team that doesn't have, a lot of go-to guys, on that team. So I think he's going to be able to sort of really run that offense in Atlanta, especially with them trading Dennis Schroeder. So I think Trae Young is definitely a good pick for Rookie of the Year. And Kurt, Chris, who was your pick for Rookie of the Year?
My pick was Jaren Jackson Jr. The Trae Young pick is an interesting pick. I think in any other year, this would be his year, but it's too much talent. Even in the backcourt, I mean, I can't put him above Aaron Holiday or Colin Sexton. Now
that has to be a joke, right?
and seriously,
Holiday, yeah.
I mean,
What he did one good year at UCLA?
This I'm talking about what I saw him do in the summer league,
the small sample set. Yeah,
and with all these other big guys and we ain't even touched on Luka Doncic. We don't know if he's gonna. I mean, what he's gonna do. So I can't say that I was very disappointed in Mo Bamba summer league. I was looking for him to destroy the summer league, and
he's gonna be more of a project.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's very average.
He's gonna be a prospect.
So that's disappointing.
Yeah, he didn't seem like he could, be a good scorer. It's probably going to take a lot of years for him to develop that scoring, but the defensive upside is still there. But
yeah.
But you said Jaren Jackson. Why Jaren Jackson?
I trust him. I would hand the keys over to my franchise to this guy. I mean, just he does everything, and the joy he has on the court. He loves the game. When you see him out there, it looks like he's just in ecstasy playing the game.
Yeah,
and I haven't seen that since Magic Johnson. The last person I've seen that happy to be on the court playing basketball. He's damn near goofy out there. Just happy. He's so happy.
Yeah.
And I say, oh man, that's going to translate and rub off to his teammates. He's going to affect his team. Watch and see what I tell you.
Feel like his energy is going to really help the Grizzlies out in the way that they play. The Grizzlies have always kind of been the grit and grind.
Yeah.
Slow the game down, beat you like that. How do you think he will fit with Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, and a couple other guys?
I think he's going to blend in perfectly. That's what I see.
Do you think they could maybe push for a playoff spot, or you won't go that far yet?
Not even close, man.
Not even close.
We still talking about Memphis Grizzlies. I see them around 11 or 12 spot. But Jaren Jackson was my second choice, but I just think Trae Young is in a better position because he's the point guard, so he's going to have the ball almost every possession. You know, the point guard handles the ball. And plus, I think this situation in Atlanta is so familiar to the situation he had at Oklahoma. But I just think Atlanta has obviously better players than his supporting cast at Oklahoma. So
Absolutely.
I picked Trae Young because he's in a familiar situation. They're going to run a system that supports his game and supports his strengths. And in college, the boy tore it up, man. He had averaged 27.4 points a game. And, you know, and teams game planned against him. The trick was if you could stop Trae Young or make him have a bad shooting night, you were going to beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be able to load up on him in the NBA like that because you have other NBA players on the court. And I just think he's just going to take off and give you a pretty good rookie year.
Will, quick question. If you have Jeremy Jackson second and Trae Young first, where do you place DeAndre Ayton?
You know what? I've got the DeAndre Ayton farther down on my list than most people would think. I actually have Marvin Bagley and Wendell Carter Jr. over DeAndre Ayton. You know, I liked him at Arizona, but I just think he was a man amongst boys in college, and I don't think you can do that in the NBA.
Well, we're going off the summer league.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying he's going to be on the Phoenix Suns playing in the NBA, and he's not going to be bullying, you know, other centers in the league. You know, you're playing against other grown men.
Did
At
you see what he did in
Arizona,
the
he was a
summer
man
league?
against boys. Yeah, but
He was bullying people in the summer league.
but those are people that's trying to make the team, other rookies, people that 85% of the summer league not going to be in the NBA. So I don't think he's going to be able to do that on a consistent basis, night in and night out in the NBA. So I got him.
So we getting on the record, you got DeAndre Ayton fifth.
Yeah, fifth or sixth, because I would put Knox over Aiden as well.
Yeah. Now, just to go off of Will's point, are you saying this is strictly for Rookie of the Year candidates, or are you saying like in terms of talent, you think Aiden is like the fifth best player, one of the fifth rookies? You know, are you ranking it according to the potential winners?
I'm saying, right, my potential winners, Aiden is like fifth or sixth.
Right, and I know I agree with
He's like
Will on that.
56.
You know, in terms of who can win Rookie of the Year, if you look at the Phoenix Suns team, I think they have a little more talent, and you know, I mean, especially with Devin Booker there, you know, he's the number one option in Phoenix. So I think Aiden will probably be the second option there, but I don't think he will have as many opportunities as, you know, a guy like Luka Doncic or Kevin Knox.
Or
you know,
Trae
Young, Jaren Jackson Jr. I think those guys may have
because Josh Jackson is going to take some opportunities on that wing spot.
Exactly.
They signed a vet that's going to, is going to start. They paying him $15
million. And also,
million.
we didn't even talk about Mikal Bridges. You know, that's another wing guy that they brought in, and he was impressive to me in the summer league as well with his shooting. I personally think the Sixers are going to regret that trade that they did with the Suns.
Yeah,
I agree.
You know, they got Zaire Smith and Miami Heat 2021 unprotected pick in that trade, which I thought was a good asset. But personally, I think Mikal Bridges would have fit better with the Sixers, considering where they want to go right now. You know, they're kind of a really good team in the East. They're up there contending for a potential, Eastern Conference championship. So I think Mikal Bridges would have been a better fit for the current, path that they plan on taking. But moving on from that, Curtis, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think what y'all say about the Phoenix Suns having all those shooters, that works in favor of Aiden having more space to do more damage. I think the defense is going to stay home on those shooters, and they're going to dare Aiden to beat them. So that's going to increase his chances to possibly win Rookie of the Year. So I have Aiden maybe no farther than third on my Rookie of the Year voting.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna touch on the guy we haven't really talked about, but Luka Doncic. I'm not sure. Have you guys really watched some of his European highlights? Did you get a chance to watch some of his film?
Yes, I did.
To me, this guy, you can make an argument that he's the most talented player in this entire draft, in my opinion.
That's true.
He's a very skilled player from what I've seen. He could really pass the ball. He got good size at 6'7". So I think he can, playing alongside Dennis Smith Jr., I think he can sort of handle a lot of the playmaking that Dallas is going to have, especially when they brought in a guy, DeAndre Jordan, that can catch a lot of lobs. So, I think he went to the perfect team and going to the Dallas Mavericks, I think it's great that the Kings didn't take him because, if we're being honest about the Kings' history, they kind of, mess up a lot of their draft prospects. That's why I'm kind of concerned about Marvin Bagley and his progression. But I really like Luka Doncic, and I think he could potentially be the best player coming out of this class. What do you guys think?
I think he could be the best player in the long run. In the short run, I don't see him being the best rookie this year, but maybe like 2 or 3 years down the road, we'll be like Doncic is definitely the best player in this draft class. He's already a professional, and I think Dallas is going to be sneaky good, and they're going to be more competitive than they were last year. So I actually think it's a perfect fit for him because he doesn't have to take the team on his back. They have the veteran leadership with Dirk, and then they have the young up-and-coming in Smith. So I think this is a perfect situation for him. But in the short run, I think those other rookies will outshine him. But maybe 2-3 years down the line, you'll say this kid was the best in that draft.
Kurt, you got any comments on Doncic?
I'm not as high on Doncic as you guys are. You said possibly the most talented player in this draft. I can't see him being more talented than Jaren Jackson Jr. Not at all. We can go with measurables, skills, offensively, defensively, all that. But I do think he's the perfect draft selection for the Mavericks.
Okay.
Great fit. I would have liked to see him in the summer league, but he had some contract issues. I think he's definitely going to be a top 10 player in this draft. So I think that's a good enough placement for him.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up for the rookies. So we're going to transition into the next topic here. We're going to talk about the Eastern Conference standings, and I think this is going to be pretty interesting this year, especially with Kawhi Leonard being in the East now. So I think it'll be pretty interesting to see where everyone has their seedings and how they have them arranged. So we're going to start with the Eastern Conference. Guys, what teams do you think? Let's start from the top of the conference. So we're gonna go 1 through 8. So let's start with the first seed in the East. Who do you guys have as your number 1 seed?
Well, I think the consensus choice is obviously Boston. I don't see anybody who can argue against Boston being number 1 with all the young talent that they have and the playoff experience that they gained last year. Plus, adding Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, it's just like adding 2 all-star free agents, because those guys were injured last year. So consensus number 1 is obviously Boston, in my opinion. What do you think, Kurt?
Yeah, I would, of course, have to agree with the Boston pick. They showed so much grit and heart and determination last season. They really could have made the finals last year with all of the injuries. And this year, all the injured players are supposed to be coming back, and with the draft addition of Robert Williams, Daniel Tice coming back, this team is fully loaded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to agree with you all. I think Boston is the consensus pick here at the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Like you all said, bringing Kyrie and Gordon Hayward back is definitely going to be a plus. I think most people believe Brad Stevens is probably a top 3 coach in the league, at this point, with his track record and what he was able to do with the young guys, taking a LeBron James team to 7 games. So that was really impressive, considering what they were missing. And then also, they just re-signed and brought back Marcus Smart, who I think was a really big part of their team. Yeah. He's kind of the heart and soul of that team to me. So, they have a lot of depth this year, I think, with Terry Rozier coming off the bench, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris is another guy that's sort of a, tough, gritty defender. He can, go at guys. So I think Boston is definitely we all agree that they should be the 1 seed next season. And how many wins do you guys project them to win? I had them at around 64 wins. I think they could pull that off. Do you guys think that's too high, or somewhere around that area? What do you think?
I personally think 64 wins is a little bit high for Boston, but I definitely have them in the high 50s, 57, 58, somewhere in that range. 64 to me is like Golden State level or Houston Rockets level, right. And I don't know if Boston is going to be in it night in and night out, even though they are very deep. They definitely have a team full of potential, like mega stars, but I don't think they've arrived yet on that Golden State level. So I say high 50s, but under 60.
I definitely agree with Will on that one. I still expect some injuries with this team. That's just been their history, and the injuries are going to prevent them from reaching 64 victories. High 50s, I think, is their ceiling for the Boston Celtics.
And that's fair. I mean, if you look at Kyrie Irving in particular, he's kind of had a sketchy injury history, especially, they said he had an infection in his knee that just got cleared up. So that's pretty serious right there, So it has to be some concern with Kyrie Irving and his status going forward. I think it'll be interesting to see how they play that out, with Kyrie Irving and Terry Rozier, with Kyrie becoming a free agent this next season. So it'll be interesting to see, they just play the season out, or do they kind of, consider trading Kyrie? I don't know, but they definitely have some good depth there at point guard. Terry Rozier will be able to fill in if Kyrie does miss any games. But I think they definitely will be a formidable foe. So
yeah.
Moving on from the 1 seed, we all agreed it was the Celtics. Who do you all have as the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference?
Well, for my 2nd seed, I have the Toronto Raptors. With the addition of Kawhi Leonard, they already have a strong supporting cast. They already had a great bench. They didn't lose anybody from that great bench, but Valanciunas, Serge Ibaka, and Kyle Lowry with Kawhi Leonard, I think that's the 2nd best team in the East. Looking at it, I know most people probably go with Philly, but I just think Philly's going to slip back this year, and I'll reveal that the further down we get on where I have Philly. It might surprise a lot of people, but I'm going with the Raptors for number 2.
What do you think, Curt?
I'm going with Philly. I think that Ben Simmons is the truth. He's definitely going to come back. I think this summer he's going to work on his game, and a second year of Ben Simmons, a year wiser, learning from the mistakes of last year, improving on his free throw shooting and his jump shot, and definitely Joel Embiid. This team is. The sky's the limit for them. Now, I do think they lost some shooting. And that was a silly trade, trading Bridges to Phoenix. But if the Zaire Smith pick does work out the way that they think, I think they can maintain the number 2 spot.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, actually, I'm going to agree with Will here. I had the Raptors as my 2nd seed. To me, I said it in my first episode of the podcast, I think Kawhi Leonard is a top 5 NBA player when he's healthy. So I think he's a pretty sizable upgrade over DeMar DeRozan, in my opinion. If he can get back to that same level of play that he played at pre-injury. To me, Kawhi Leonard, he's one of the best defenders in the league. He's a lockdown defender. He's a much better 3-point shooter. So I think he can help with the Raptors' floor spacing and what they already have. And like these guys said, they had a pretty great bench last year. They had one of the best benches in the league. They brought back most of those guys with the exception of Pirtle. And I think the Raptors, they moved up to the top of the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Boston, because they're a really good team. Now, the only concern I do have about the Raptors is they do have a new head coach in Nick Nurse. So we don't really know too much about him yet, how he's going to coach this team, from where Dwayne Casey was doing. But What do you think, Kurt?
That's a huge point that I was going to make. Everyone talk like this is going to be the same Raptors team. This is going to be a completely different offense, defense, head coaching strategy. Dwayne Casey is gone. People need to understand that. This is not the same Raptors team. DeMar DeRozan is going. It's a huge gap. And Will and Kori, do you guys truly trust Kawhi Leonard with everything that he's put the San Antonio Spurs through? And you think he's going to come to Toronto where you know he's not happy to be there, and he's just going to fill the shoes of DeMar DeRozan, who says that Toronto was his home, so he was comfortable there, giving that team his all, every piece of his soul, and with the head coaching situation. How I can't understand how people still place the Raptors so high.
Well, let me address that. First, the coaching with Casey leaving. Actually, I think it's a good thing. I wasn't a big fan of Casey. I thought he was highly overrated as a coach. And honestly, I think coaching in the NBA is overrated by a lot of fans. I think it's the talent that you have on your team first, then the coach is second. So I wasn't a fan of Casey. I think Nurse was under that same system. He's going to run the same system or something similar to what Casey did. And I don't think it's a bad thing for the Raptors to be without DeRozan. Kawhi Leonard is at least twice as better of a player than DeRozan, in my opinion. I think Kawhi Leonard is probably the third or fourth. He's in the top five of in the NBA when healthy, yeah. Kawhi Leonard. And about trusting him, I think it was a situation where Kawhi didn't trust the Spurs, and that affects you on and off the court. Now he gets a fresh start, whether it's a place he wants to be long term or not. I think he's just going to be able to be free and just go ahead and play this season out and have a Kawhi Leonard type of season. Finishing the top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year and being the top 3 in MVP voting. So I think this is a huge upgrade for the Raptors. I don't even think it's close. Just because DeMar DeRozan was there long term and gave the city his all, I think they upgraded substantially when they got Kawhi.
Yeah, to go off of what Will said, I don't think Kawhi needs to be DeMar DeRozan as far as what he was for the city of Toronto. We know DeRozan did so much. He did so much in that community, and he was the face of Toronto for many years. But the reason I trust Kawhi on the basketball court is because he has a lot to prove as well this summer. Next season. I think his reputation kind of took a hit this summer. With the perception of Kawhi Leonard, but he has to go out and prove it on the court as well this season and show everyone that he's still a top 5 player. So that's his motivation to contribute to Toronto. And, we'll see if he makes it through the entire season or not. But if he does, I think the Raptors will be a very formidable foe, and they will challenge the Eastern Conference throne. So, you want to say something, Kurt?
How does he fit with the Toronto system? Yeah. That's a question for both of you guys.
Well, my answer to that is when you have one of the top 3 or 4 players in the NBA, then you don't have to worry about how they fit in the system. He's all-world on defense, and he's actually a much better offensive player than people remember. I think him missing this year, people has forgotten how great Kawhi Leonard is, and I think he can fit in any system. So I'm not worried about how does he fit in the Raptors system. I think when you have an all-time great like that, it works out.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Kawhi is not a ball-dominant player, so you don't have to adjust your team too much, in my opinion, to benefit Kawhi Leonard. So I think he's going to fit right in there with Kyle Lowry there at point guard. They're going to move the ball. They're definitely going to be a better three-point shooting team this year, I believe. We didn't even talk about Danny Green. He's going to really help out help out both Kawhi Leonard and Toronto. Because he has a relationship with Kawhi. He was the only Spur that defended him this season when everyone was talking about him. So I think Danny Green is going to really help Toronto out as well with his defense and three-point shooting. But moving on from the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, let's go to the 3 seed. Who you guys have there?
My 3 seed is probably a little bit of a surprise for most people. Indiana Pacers. I have as a 3 seed for a variety of reasons. But I'll let Kurt touch on who his 3 seed is. But mine is the Indiana Pacers.
My third seed is the Milwaukee Bucks.
Wow, that's a shocker right
The,
there.
the Milwaukee Bucks, they have new head coach, which is something they needed sorely last season. They took the Boston Celtics to 7 games last season. So if you are impressed with the Boston Celtics, you have to be impressed with the Milwaukee Bucks off of that alone. And the Milwaukee Bucks stole number 23 from the Sixers. I forget it. Ilyasova.
Oh, yeah.
They stole him away from the Philadelphia 76ers, which weakened the Sixers and gave the Milwaukee Bucks a boost. And I think the Greek Freak is going to, he has learned a lot from his mistakes from last season, and he's going to be an even better leader this season. I'm looking for the Milwaukee Bucks to move up to that 3rd seed in the East.
So it sounds like you have Giannis being an MVP type of player this season. If they can get to the 3rd seed, I think he has to be in strong consideration for that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Chris has the Bucks having a really strong bounce back season and getting the 3rd seed in the East. My 3rd seed is actually the Philadelphia 76ers. I just think, with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid having another year to progress, I actually think Embiid is going to have an MVP type of season. I think he's going to be a monster on defense as he was last year. And I think they have enough pieces there. I know they did lose some shooting. They did bring in Mike Muscala from the Hawks. He's a big that can stretch the floor. I think J.R. Smith is going to be a contributor, coming in as a rookie. And I think they have enough there to get back to where they were last season. They was the 3rd seed last NBA season. So I think they can get back there, and I think they're going to be, they're going to improve from the development of their 2 stars, and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. So anybody else have any comments from 3rd seed before we move on?
Well, I'm just very high on the Pacers. My reason is they got another ball handler to kind of alleviate the pressure off Oladipo and Tyreke Evans. I think that's a huge under-the-radar type of free agent signing this year when they got him for the $12 million, which I think is a bargain. He can handle the ball. He can go get his own shot off the dribble. And surprisingly, he's a decent three-point shooter.
Yeah, he had a really good year last year.
I think the Pacers are clearly the number 3 seed in the East, and they're going to surprise a lot of people with Curry. I know you were high on Holiday, and he probably won't even be in their 8-man rotation, throughout the year. He's probably like their 9th or 10th best player, coming off that decent summer league that he had. And we got Sabonis, man. Indiana, I feel they're loaded, and I think they've did addition by subtraction by letting Lance go and getting Tyreke.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, let's move on to the 4th seed. Curt, you want to start off with your pick for who you had?
My 4th seed is the Toronto Raptors, but it is still contingent on if Kawhi can be trusted and the health of Kawhi and this new coach. If it's true what Will says that Coach Nurse is going to run the same system as Dwayne Casey, then I think yes, that's a healthy spot at number 4 for them.
Okay, Will, who you have as your 4th seed?
My 4th seed, another surprise. I'm going with the Washington Wizards. I think this is now or never for John Wall, Bradley Beal, and Dwight Howard. If not now, it's never going to happen for those guys. LeBron's out the East. They have a shot. They have Wall, Beal. I think Howard's going to have a bounce back year, seeing that nobody really wanted him in free agency. But I also think Jeff Green signing one of those wing spots is going to be a little bit surprising to people, especially playing in the Eastern Conference. So I have the Wizards at 4.
Okay, it's very interesting there. My 4th seed in the East is actually the Indiana Pacers. I do sort of agree with Will that the Pacers have been slept on this offseason. They had some really great additions. especially in Tyreek Evans, who's another ball handler, along with Victor Oladipo. They brought in Kyle O'Quinn, who's sort of an underrated player who was really good on the Knicks last year. So he's going to be a great backup center behind Miles Turner there. So I really like Indiana's depth. They kept a lot of the guys from last year. Thaddeus Young had a really good year last year, especially in the playoffs where he was shutting down Kevin Love. So I think the Pacers are being slept on. I wouldn't be surprised if they upset one of the top 2 or 3 seeds, next year in the playoffs. So I have a lot of respect for the Pacers, and I think they'll be my 4th seed next season in the Eastern Conference. So let's move on from that. The 5th seed. Will, who did you have as your 5th seed in the East?
Now, my 5th seed in the East is, of course, everybody's darling, Philly. I'm not that high on Philly. I think they're going to take a big step back this year. My reasoning behind that is, number one, Ben Simmons. I'm not a big believer in Ben Simmons, the playoff player in the regular season. I think he's going to have an excellent regular season. But when it comes to the playoffs, unless he can prove to me and the rest of the NBA world that he can shoot a freaking regular jump shot, I'm not even talking about the three-point shot, just a regular jump shot, then I'm going to be very low on Ben Simmons, the playoff player. Regular season is a different thing. So they lost Bellinelli. I like the addition of Wilson Chandler, but I have Philly as a 5th seed because I don't believe Ben Simmons will grow as most people think he will. And I think Joel Embiid is actually going to have a less season than he had last year as far as statistically. I think they snuck up on a lot of people last year. They won't have that advantage this year. And I think the rest of the East is going to be ready for Philly and ready to bring their A game every time they play Philadelphia. So I have them at number 5.
Interesting. Kurt, you want to say anything about your pick?
My number 5 pick is the Washington Wizards. As Will said earlier, do or die for John Wall and Bradley Beal, and Dwight Howard. I think they're really desperate to make this move, but it could be a very key move if it works out. I think enough people don't talk about Otto Porter. Otto Porter is being paid $122 million, and he's being paid like a superstar almost. So if he could play up to the level of his pay, I think this team could cause some serious damage in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had the Wizards as my 5th seed as well in the East. I think John Wall is the best point guard Dwight Howard has had in his career. So, if I think Dwight needs to, sort of go back to playing like he played in Orlando, or similar to how Clint Capella plays for Houston. If he could just focus on his role, defending the rim, setting good screens and rolling, and that's how he used to play in Orlando. He was a hustle player. You didn't really have to run plays for him. And, he dominated the game like that. He's still one of the best rebounders in the league. He's always in the top of the league in rebounding. So we know he's still capable of doing that. But he just, he has to, not be too worried about, getting those back to the basket touches that he wants, and calling for the ball all the time. If he just plays his role, the Wizards can be a really good team in the Eastern Conference. So I really like the Wizards. Like I said, Otto Porter is another guy. If he takes another step, they can definitely make a leap. So I like the Wizards at the 5th seed. So moving on from that, who do you guys have as the 6th seed?
Number 6, I struggle with 6 through 8. I can just admit that right now, but I left it with the Milwaukee Bucks at number 6 in the East. I like Chris Middleton and Giannis, and that's about it on their team that I like. So I have them at number 6. I don't particularly like. Well, I'm not going to say I don't like. I don't know too much about their new coach. So I think they're just Giannis and Chris Middleton. So I don't think you can win with just 2 stars on your team. So I have Milwaukee at number 6.
Kurt, who do you have as your 6th pick?
I had the Miami Heat, but hearing you guys speak about Indiana, I switched my pick to Indiana. from Miami. Indiana, as Kori talked about earlier, Miles Turner is a big key for me with this ball club. If he can play up to his true capabilities, this team could be the third seed that Will talks about. But right now, I have them as the 6th seed.
Okay. I have the Bucks as my 6th seed, same as Will. I think they have a new coach in Mike Budenholzer, so I think it'll be interesting to see the type of offense that they run with Giannis. But they did lose Jabari Parker, so I think that will give Giannis more touches, to sort of dominate. And I like what they did as well. They do sort of have sort of a weird roster, with Bledsoe. They don't really have a lot of big man depth there, but I think they would do enough to be competitive in the Eastern Conference, along with Chris Middleton, who's a very talented player. I think he doesn't get enough credit. I think he's a little bit underrated around the league. But Chris Middleton to me is very good. You still have Giannis there, who's probably top 2 player in the Eastern Conference. So they're definitely going to be a tough team in the East. So 7th seed, who do you guys have for that?
Surprise, surprise! For my 7th seed, I have the Chicago Bulls.
Woo!
My reason is I like the young mix that they have. I think Jabari Parker is finally going to play a full season, and history shows when he plays a full season, he's about 18 points per game player. And I like Zach LaVine. I think he needs to improve on his shooting. But unlike Ben Simmons, I think he actually can improve on his shooting.
Shot fired.
Chris Dunn, I like his defense, and I like the way he runs a team. And, of course, everybody's high on marketing. I'm kind of lukewarm on marketing, but all you need marketing to do is just to step up one level higher than you did last year, and that would be great improvement to me. And part of my reason putting the Bulls 7th, the rest of the East, I don't really see them being significantly better than the Bulls. So I think if things go right, the Bulls can be a lock at that 7th pick.
Interesting. Curt, what's your 7th pick?
Yeah, I have the Miami Heat. I've been a big fan on the kid from Kentucky in last draft. Number
Bam.
13.
Bam Adebayo?
Bam. Yes.
He's impressive.
Yeah, he's very impressive, and I just think, as Will said, the rest of the East is not strong enough to come up over this team. So I have the Heat at number 7.
Okay. I had the Miami Heat as my 7th seed as well. I don't know what's going to happen with Hassan Whiteside. I mean, he seems like he wants to be traded, but his contract is pretty bad, with the amount of money he's making. So I do think, like Curt said, Bam Adebayo will sort of see more minutes at the starting center, or whatever they decide to do. But I like the Miami Heat. They're a very gritty team. I like Josh Richardson a lot. He's a very good defender to me, and another sort of under the radar type of guy. You still got going drafted there. Dion Waiters is coming back from injury. Everyone forgets he's missed most of the season last year. So they get Dion Waiters back. They signed Wayne Ellington back. Another sharpshooter that they had. And we don't know what's going to happen with Dwayne Wade. He seems to be weighing his options. With possibly playing in China. But
Dragic.
Yeah. So I think the Heat will definitely be a playoff team, and they're well coached by Eric Spoelstra. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens with them. And finally, the 8th seed. Who's you guys' finals pick? What's it going to be?
For my 8th seed, although I'm not a big fan of Dwayne Casey, I picked the Detroit Pistons. Reason being, you get a full year of Blake Griffin. I think Griffin and Drummond, that combination gets a year to work with each other and improvement. But I also, Reggie Jackson missed a lot of time last year, and hopefully he's healthy coming into this upcoming season. But the combination of Blake Griffin, Drummond, and Jackson with the mediocre coach should get them the 8th seed in the East.
Mediocre. Coach of the year is mediocre. That's how you feel. What you think, Kurt?
My 8th seed is a toss up between Chicago and Detroit.
Gotta pick one.
If I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Chicago. I'm born and raised here, so
I agree with that.
and I picked them because I think they have more offense than Detroit. Zach Levine, Will says he can't shoot. He hit a lot of shots last year for the Bulls, as I can remember. And then Chicago also have Markkanen. Bobby Portis showed me some things last year.
It's a contract year for Bobby Portis.
It's a contract year for
He got a lot to
him.
prove.
He's not afraid. The guy has
Bobby
guts.
Why don't you throw Felicio there? The $8 million.
And of course the rookie Wendell Carter. I think he's gonna play a big role for the Bulls this year. And Jabari Parker gets to play the 3 spot and show what he can do. He's from Chicago. He's going to want to show improve, and I think that's enough to get them over Detroit. Detroit, Stanley Johnson. I think this is his last year to show the city something, and I don't think he's going to do it. So, with that said, that puts Chicago over Detroit.
Okay. I actually had Detroit as my 8th seed. The reason I didn't pick Chicago is because I just don't think they're ready yet. I mean, I think they will be a playoff team in the future, but they have a lot of young guys. I think the average age for their starting lineup is 22 years old or something like that. So they have a very young core. With Chris Dunn, Levine, Jabari, Wendell Carter, and Lauri Markkanen. So that's a very young team. You kind of need some veteran presence, I believe, to push for the playoffs.
But Lopez, don't they?
Robin Lopez, yeah. But that's why I didn't pick. And also, did you guys hear with Jabari Parker? I mean, he said guys don't get paid to play defense. So to me, I didn't like the comment, but I picked Detroit because having a full season of Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond, I think that's going to be enough to get them in the playoffs. I know Blake kind of has injury history as well, with him missing a lot of games, but he's still a very talented player in this league, in my opinion, and I think him and Drummond can be, one of the best tandem big men in the league. So, especially crashing the boards, Drummond leads the league in rebounding a lot of times throughout the season. So
that's true.
I think Drummond will sort of take another step next season. I know we've been saying it season after season. Andre Drummond, if he gets it together, they can do a lot of things. But I think he'll do enough to secure 8th seed for Detroit. So that wraps up the Eastern Conference. It's time for the bloodbath debate in out west. So let's start with the 1 seed out west. Who do you all have?
Well, this is probably the only seed I don't think, similar to the Boston pick, I don't think anybody would debate this. Well, at least seriously and honestly debate this pick. I have the champs, Golden State Warriors. My prediction is I have the minimum set at 69 wins. I think they can do anywhere between 75 and 69 wins. And it depends on how they come into the season, because I, for one, think Golden State is very motivated by the LeBron to LA move. I think sometimes you have to give the champs something to play for, and they have all this motivation with NBA players talking smack during the offseason about who's soft, who should have went where, Cousins shouldn't have went. They're still talking about Durant move from 2 years ago that he shouldn't have went. So I think the champs will be very motivated. I think they're going to come out with a lot of fire or something to prove. And honestly, I think they want to break the record that they have set themselves, but actually finish it by winning a championship. So, number one is obviously Golden State in my book.
I definitely agree with Will on that one. But I think most of that motivation is going to come from wanting to get Boogie Cousins a championship ring and change the way the world and the league looks at Boogie Cousins. He's going to be the pulse of this team, and like Will said, they're going to want to break that old record and do what they couldn't do against LeBron in 2016, where they went 73-9 and didn't finish the job. So I think that's going to be that motivation.
Okay. I had the Golden State Warriors as my number one seed as well. I mean, I think they were the favorites before they got DeMarcus Cousins, and they should be super favorites if he plays this season. We don't know if he, I think that's the one question mark with the Warriors. Coming back from a torn Achilles, we don't even know if Cousins is going to play the season. He might play in the playoffs, so we'll see what happens with that. But it's the Golden State Warriors. They're just the class of the league. They're ahead of every other organization right now. With their moves, so. I have them winning, around 65 games personally, but I can see what you all are saying with them potentially breaking that 73 win threshold. But for me, I just think the Warriors care about getting to the playoffs healthy. I don't think they really care about breaking the NBA wins record again. I think they already did that. So to me, I think their concern for the season will just be getting to the playoffs healthy, like it's been for the past couple of seasons. Just focusing on resting guys. They rested a lot of guys these past 2 years. Steph missed a lot of time. Kevin Durant. So I don't think breaking that NBA record will be a high priority for them. But when it comes to playoff time, they definitely will be probably the best team in the organization. So.
But I think they've done a good job of adding some players that have some fire. At first Draymond was the only guy on the team that people consider to have fire.
Jordan Bell.
Now they have Cousins, another firecracker, and Jerebko. I think that's an under-the-radar move as well. This guy wants a ring, just like Cousins wants a ring, and then he can also shoot. Both of them could shoot three-pointers, DeMarcus Cousins and Jerebko, and they both feisty. They'll mix it up with you. They'll play physical, and I think that was their only weakness was they didn't have the flexibility to play physical with some of these teams like you saw in the Rockets series, and now that's going to be one of their strengths.
So let me ask you both a question real quick. Do you all think DeMarcus Cousins will be in the Warriors' death lineup? I mean, the death lineup consisted of Draymond, Iguodala, Kevin Durant, Klay, and Steph. I mean, where does Cousins fit in there? Do you think he will even close games? I mean, there could be some tensions as well.
I think Iguodala is falling out of that because his health. He's not going to be playing too much longer. So I think that.
Okay. You both think Cousins replaces Iggy in that lineup?
I look at it like this: in the regular season, I think Iguodala on the games that he does play, I think Iguodala is only going to play between 50 and 60 games this year. Because I think they're going to conserve him for the playoffs. But I do believe when it comes playoff time, it depends on the matchup. I think Cousins will be in against a team that has a more physical presence, and I think Iguodala will be in against a team that's more three-point oriented or drive and kick oriented. Let's say like the Rockets, for example, because even they took Capella out when it was clutch time, and they went with their small lineup. So it depends on the matchup, but I think them getting Cousins allows them to have this option. They didn't have this option last year. They had to go with the death lineup with Iggy. Now they have choices. We can get physical and big because Cousins is a beast. If he's healthy, it's hard to stop that man. I think he's the best center in the league, complete center as far as scoring, rebounding, and passing if he's healthy. So now they have options, and I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. They should definitely be a pretty unguardable team. So let's move on to the second seed in the Western Conference. Who do you all have there?
For my second seed, I'll be honest, I kind of struggle with this because I think they took a step back by losing Trevor Ariza. So I went with Houston anyway, just because they had such a good regular season and a deep playoff run. But I was tempted to go with another team in this spot, but I went with Houston for my number 2. But I do think they're not as good as they was last season. I think Carmelo will actually be a much better Carmelo than he was on OKC this year. I actually think Carmelo will surprise a lot of people. So that's what was the convincing factor for me keeping Houston at number 2 was actually Carmelo Anthony, believe it or not. I'm going opposite here. Most people think he's going to be a liability. I think he's going to be an asset.
Kurt, what do you have as your number 2?
I have the LA Lakers as my number 2 seed.
Ooh, that's big.
Any team that adds LeBron James can't be no lower than a number 2 seed, in my opinion. This team, he has a lot of youth around him, a lot of dogs and veterans that are willing to get down and dirty, dive on the floor, fight you, bite you, whatever they have to do to get the victory at the end of the game. And that's something he didn't have in Cleveland. This team is going to be so hungry. They can't be anything less than a number 2 seed. As you said, Houston fell off because they lost Trevor Ariza and even Bamute. I thought Bamute missed a lot of easy layups in the playoffs. And cost them.
He was coming off injury.
He cost them some games during the playoffs. So because of that reason, they can't be number 2 for me. So I have the Lakers at number 2.
Taking on LeBron. Okay. I actually have Houston Rockets as my number 2 seed as well. I think you guys made some great points with the loss of Trevor Ariza and Luka Mbamute. They did bring in James Ennis. He's kind of not a popular name, but I think he can come in and contribute a little bit there. Carmelo Anthony, I think he will help them more actually in the regular season. I think that's what Houston makes their mark. They're a really great regular season team. I think they will win 60-plus games again and secure that 2nd seed. But I think this is definitely a better fit for Carmelo Anthony than OKC. He just couldn't quite find his role in OKC. I think he will fit much better playing along guys like Chris Paul and James Harden. And I know him and Mike D'Antoni had some issues with each other in New York, but I think having a guy like Chris Paul there was would have helped smooth a lot of that out. So
I agree.
Houston would, in my opinion, would definitely be at least top 2 seed in the West, and I think they're going to be maybe not better than last year, but they're going to be still very formidable. So that's what I have my number 2 seed. 3rd seed in the West. Who do you guys have there?
Once again, this spot was a struggle for me. But listening to Kurt, he convinced me. I'm going with the Lakers at number 3 with the obvious reason. They won the offseason with the LeBron signing. I agree they definitely have a good mix of young and veteran, and they do have dogs. I think Rondo is an underrated signing, and people are saying they don't understand why Rondo went to the Lakers. I totally understand it, especially for a playoff. I definitely understand the Rondo move. I think they have some underrated shooting in Kuzma. Ball, I think, will be much better. And hopefully healthier. If he can stay healthy, I think Ball had a pretty damn good rookie season, and it was underestimated by a lot just because they don't like his father. People overlooked Lonzo Ball's season, so it was a toss-up at first between the Lakers and OKC, but I'm going to put the Lakers at the 3 spot.
Kurt, who did you have as your 3rd seed?
I had the Houston Rockets. For some of the same reasons you guys said, but it's still contingent on the signing of Clint Capella. It still hasn't.
Well, he already signed.
He signed?
Today, Clint agreed to a 5-year, $90 million deal, so he's secured.
Oh, okay.
He's there for the long run.
Okay, so yes, so they're definitely number 3. They're going to be missing a lot with Trevor Ariza. Ennis is no Trevor Ariza, but he's not bad. But so Carmelo is going to have to really feel some big shoes. He's going to have to fill Luke Bamute's shoes and Trevor Ariza. And can he do it? I don't know. I don't know. So that's why they fall from number 2 to number 3.
That's interesting. It may shock some people, but my third seed was Oklahoma City Thunder. I actually think they got better by subtraction, by losing Carmelo Anthony. You know, it just wasn't a great fit. They had to find shots for him that really messed up their offense. So I just think the Thunder will be a better team this year without Carmelo Anthony. They got Dennis Schroeder from the Atlanta Hawks, who's going to be a great backup point guard for Russell Westbrook. Steven Adams is still a very young center in this league. I think he's going to continue to get better, along with Westbrook and Paul George. They also added backup center Nerlens Noel, so I think he can come in and contribute. He still has a lot to prove. And I just think the Thunder, they're going to be a very tough defensive team. And also to mention getting back Andre Roberson. You know, he was, the Thunder had the top defense in the league when Roberson was playing. And, having him help Paul George out on that perimeter, they could easily be the best defensive team in the league, with the type of guys they have there. And Jeremiah Grant, he really impressed me last year in the playoffs as well. So I think they have a really athletic team there in Oklahoma. And I think they're going to be a tough, very stout defensive team. And when you got a guy like Russell Westbrook and Paul George, they can put up points on the offensive end. So I have Oklahoma City as my third seed. I think they will be a better regular season team than the playoff team. But since we're just doing seeding, I think they can pull off the third seed.
No way.
Moving on, who do you all have at the fourth seed?
To piggyback off of what Kori was saying about OKC, I actually have them as my fourth seed for a lot of the same reasons that Kori stated. I love what they did for their bench. Schroeder, Nerlens Noel, I think those are key. I think that was Oklahoma City's weakness last year.
Yes.
They had a pretty decent starting five, but the bench was garbage. Now I think they're much more improved. They're going to have a much more stable bench. Not a big fan of Billy Donovan, but I think Westbrook and Paul George can help them overcome that. I have them as the fourth seed, but me saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost to the Jazz, again, because I love the Jazz also, but I have Oklahoma as my fourth seed.
I also have Oklahoma City as my fourth seed. I thought about switching them with the Utah Jazz.
Yes, I did.
But the only reason I did not switch them is because of the Schroeder signing trade.
Mm-hmm.
Point guard was a weakness of theirs last year. People say, well, how can Russell Westbrook at point be a weakness? He played awful in the playoffs. He couldn't be trusted in the clutch.
Hero ball.
He was trying to do the hero ball and take on the Spanish
Ricky Rubio.
Ricky Rubio for the Jazz, and that team, Utah got all in his head and threw him completely off his game. So trusting Russell Westbrook would never be a reason for me to have them as high as a fourth seed. But because they have Schroeder, and I think they're going to play him in the clutch at the point and move Russell to the 2 where he can't cause as much damage to his own team. I think that'll be better. And the Noel, I didn't even know they had Nerlens, but that's a big signing. And I think Paul George, his second year with this team, he's going to be better. So that's my reason for having OKC at the number 4th seed.
Okay. I have the Lakers as my 4th seed. Like you guys already mentioned, you get the best player in the league, in LeBron James. It's definitely going to change the franchise immediately. They did bring in a lot of dogs. Some very tough, gritty guys, and Rondo, Lance Stevenson.
Beasley.
People make jokes about these guys, but I think there's a lot of talent on the team, especially Michael Beasley. This guy's a walking bucket. JaVale is a butt of a lot of jokes, but he contributed a lot to the Golden State Warriors. If you watch some of them games against Cleveland, he was protecting the rim, guarding guys on the perimeter. He's doing a lot of things at that center position. So I think the Lakers will be the 4th seed here. I think Lonzo Ball's rookie season was underrated, as Will said. And even if he does get hurt, you got a guy like Ronald that can come in and run the offense. So they have 2 of the smartest guys in the league in LeBron James and Rajon Rondo. So they're going to really push those young guys and Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, and even the rookies that they got in Mo Wagner and Mikhaila, who was looking like a steal at the 47th pick. I think they will be a very interesting team to watch this season, and they have the firepower and sort of the toughness, I think, to pull out home court advantage in that first round and pull off that 4th seed. So I got the Lakers as my 4th seed.
All right.
5th seed, Will, do you want to go?
5th seed, I think it's pretty obvious. I got the Utah Jazz as my 5th seed. We get the 2nd year of Donovan Mitchell.
Goodness.
I just think they have a very solid team. The only thing I'm concerned about with the Jazz, if they had a little more offense, I think they can compete with the likes of like the Houston Rockets, OKC, and LA Lakers. But I also like Grayson Allen. We didn't talk about him and touch on him during the Summer League conversation, but I think that'll be a nice backup to like Ricky Rubio. Rubio had the hamstring, so if you go through that, by the time the playoffs come, Grayson Allen will have a full season under his belt, and I think he's sneaky athletic. I was surprised to see him doing those dunks for the Summer League, and he's pretty. I think he's going to be a pretty good defensive player. So my 5th pick is the Jazz. Besides Golden State, that's the only team that I'm confident in being number 5. Just like I was confident with Golden State being the number 1 pick. All the other selections, I have a battle between 2 teams. So the Jazz is my 5th.
Curtis, who you have?
I have Utah as well. Like you said, Donovan Mitchell. Ooh, he's definitely going to lead this team to some pretty far heights. I like the pick of Grayson Allen, of course, and I think Ingles. Ooh, he's
Joe Ingles.
This guy gave Paul George all he could handle. I mean,
in his head, man.
And every open shot in the playoffs, he made it. Every open shot, I've said, wow, this guy. It's an ugly shot, but it goes in. And I just think, a guy like Derek Favors, you can trust him to do what he's going to do every night. He's going to get those rebounds, and he makes a good amount of his free throws. And, the key to their team is Rudy Gobert. If he can stay healthy and just do what he does, this team can go very far.
Yeah, I had the Jazz as my 5th seed as well, so we all agree on that. You can make an argument that Donovan Mitchell outplayed Westbrook and Paul George in the playoffs last year.
That's true.
I mean, this guy was a rookie. And
Ingles did too.
And he was more poised than those guys, So,
Joey.
hey, I mean, like these guys said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz beat OKC if they did match up again. They seem to have their number. I know Joe Ingles sort of looks like a gym teacher, but that guy can play. He hit the 3 and D player. A lot of people don't know about Joe Ingles, but he's a good player.
I like O'Neal too.
Royce O'Neal has.
That dude can play.
Athletic.
And Exum.
Dante Exum.
Played well at number 10. No, he is not.
Alex Burks.
Alex Burks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man, both of them, man, they got offense, man.
So the Jazz,
a solid 5th seed, man.
Yeah, they are very, and they also will coach. We got to give Quinn Snyder some credit too. He deserves. He belongs in that top 10 coaching conversation. So Quinn Snyder's very good. Ricky Rubio had a great year last year.
Yes.
And we know Gobert is a defensive player of the year type of guy. So as long as the Stifle Tower is man that defense and they got their star wing and Donovan Mitchell, the Jazz, It's a team I don't think anyone wants to play. You know, they're a tough team, man.
I
So,
agree with that.
yeah, we all have the Jazz at 5. But now it's going to get really interesting here. The 6th seed. Who you guys got the 6th seed?
This is the steam room, man. This is where you start sweating. Man, I'm torn even as I speak between the Spurs and New Orleans, but I'm gonna go with who has the best player between those two, and I'm gonna go with New Orleans as my 6th seed. Initially, I did have the Spurs in this spot because I like the combination DeRozan and Aldridge, but I'm gonna go with New Orleans because they have Anthony Davis. I like the Randall signing and the sneaky good signing. I think a young Rondo is Alfred Payton, and I think he's going to be great for the regular season. I don't think he's going to give them what Rondo gave them in the postseason, but Payton, along with Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis, and the Randall signing makes New Orleans the 6th seed for me. Plus, I love Gentry as a coach. So.
I agree. I have New Orleans as my 6th seed also. I think even after Boogie got hurt, they kept playing, and Davis raised his game. Yeah. People are saying that he could win the MVP this season. That wouldn't surprise me at all. As Will said, the Julius Randle signing is impressive. I think that he could easily be a poor man's DeMarcus Cousins. And
I can see that.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Mirotic too, I forgot.
And Mirotic, woo, man, this guy made me mad as hell because I'm like, where was this with the Bulls? Like,
yeah, I agree.
he's getting 30 and 15 boards.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the world? So they really have a lot of firepower. They have 2 former Chicago Bulls balling over there. Etwan Moore gives them a lot of great games. So these players are what put them ahead of the Spurs for me in the 6th seed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm going to have to disagree with you both, but I got the San Antonio Spurs as my 6th seed. I mean, they were the 7th seed last year, and Kawhi Leonard missed basically the whole season, you know what I'm saying? So, Greg Popovich, we know he's going to always, get his team to the playoffs. He's very, one of the greatest coaches of all time. No matter what guys he has out there, he's going to get the best out of them and, make them play to his system. So, I think you add, he may not be Kawhi Leonard, but, you bring in a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who's an all-star and an all-NBA player. He made 2nd team all-NBA last season and, had a really good year scoring the ball. So that gives the Spurs another option, as a go-to scorer along with LaMarcus Aldridge. And I just think the Spurs, the Spurs are going to be the Spurs. I think DeJounte Murray is going to have a bigger role this season. I think he's going to have some progression. They still have Patty Mills there, Aldridge, Rudy Gay, and also they got Jakob Poeltl from the Raptors. I think he's going to be a contributor, and I actually think he's going to play more than Pau Gasol. So, you can't really go against Greg Popovich. So I think he's going to, really coach this team to the 6th seed. So that's my pick at number 6 in the West. Moving on to the 7th seed. Who do you guys have there?
Man, like the previous seed, it's a toss-up for me on this one, but since I had New Orleans go 6, I'll have the Spurs here at the 7th seed for much of the same reasons that Kori already stated on the Spurs. I do believe DeMar DeRozan will have a fire, will come out and play with a fire because I think he's honestly hurt about being traded from Toronto and being lied to straight to his face. So I think he's going to have something to prove. I think he's going to shoot the 3 ball better here in San Antonio. And to go with what Kori said, Pop, he makes players better. And I think he's going to make DeRozan better. And so for that reason, I have the Spurs at my number 7.
I also have the Spurs at number 7. I didn't like that they lost Tony Parker, but I mean, he's getting up there in age, and the younger point guards on that team are really running circles around them. So, and I think that DeMar DeRozan is going to have a huge year. I think he's going to make the All-Star team in the Western Conference, which is going to be a difficult thing to do.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and for many of the same reasons that Will spoke on, him being hurt and betrayed and everything. I believe he's going to have a better season than Kawhi Leonard.
Whoa! Wow. I take right there, people.
And I say that because earlier you guys spoke on Kawhi being able to fit in anywhere. I challenged that because all people that leave the Spurs, I think they have a hard time getting out of that pop system and doing something different. So I think Kawhi is going to struggle with that, and I think DeMar is going to flourish because of that. And so the Spurs, they're getting older. Pau Gasol is going on his way down. As Kori spoke on, the center that got traded from Toronto, he's probably going to have an even bigger role. And I think that's going to put the Spurs at the number 7 spot.
Okay, interesting. My 7th spot, I actually had the Denver Nuggets. I think this team, there's going to be a lot of firepower here, man. They brought in Isaiah Thomas. I think he has a lot to prove this season, so I think he's going to have a fire lit under him. Like you guys said about DeRozan, I think he can, and I think he's going to be playing more of his natural role to me, which is the sixth man. I think that's what he has been most of his career. I know he had the outlier year in Boston where he was in MVP conversation, but I think Isaiah is better suited as a six-man role, coming off the bench and being that scoring punch. So I really think the Denver Nuggets are going to be a really good team. Nikola Jokic, that dude is a monster, getting triple-doubles at the center position. He's a really good passer, one of the best in the league. And also, I think Gary Harris and Jamal Murray are going to take another step forward. You can say these guys are sort of a young splash brothers. They both really good shooters, and I think they could take another step as well. They did trade Wilson Chandler, so I think that would be interesting to see what happens. And we don't know if Michael Porter Jr. is going to play this year, but if he does contribute, I mean that's another plus there. I don't expect him to contribute much, but if he does, I think he's one of the most talented guys if he's able to play and he's healthy. So I really like Denver, and I think they're going to get in the playoff this year. They barely missed it last year with the loss against the Timberwolves, but I think this year Denver's going to be a better team. So let's move on to the final spot in the Western Conference. Who do you guys give in that final spot?
Man, my final spot was tough. It came down to 3 teams: the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, and the Blazers. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to actually have to go with the Nuggets for the 8th spot on my Western Conference board. And for some of the reasons that Kori already stated, Jokic, they gave Barton all that money. He had a pretty damn good season last year. And I do believe in Murray and Harris as the backcourt. And also, Paul Millsap, he missed a whole lot of games last year, and he will be there if he's healthy for the majority of the season. So, surprisingly, I'm going to have the Blazers missing the playoffs as well as the Timberwolves, but that's just because this is a stack-loaded West, and I'm going with the Nuggets for the 8th spot.
Yeah, I had the same toss-up as Will with Portland, Minnesota, and Denver. And I'm going to have to go with Denver because, and especially if everyone is healthy, Will Barton is the key to me to this team. He had a huge season last year, and I don't see any reason why that won't continue. They had to pick up Michael Porter Jr. The guy could play, or he might not play the whole year. But
I think he misses the whole year.
I think that's an interesting pick, being that they traded away Wilson Chandler. So, but I love the starting 5, and it's really hard for me to see Isaiah getting much playing time with Harris and Murray. taking up all those minutes. But I think this team has more of what it takes than Portland and Minnesota. Minnesota seems like they're just on the way down.
Implode.
They're about to implode. Jimmy looks like he's ready to bail. And Portland, I just don't know what's wrong with this team. They just underwhelm you every time, so I can't trust them after last year.
Too busy worried about the Warriors and who should have stayed. That's what's wrong with them. Yeah. And I think New Orleans exposed Portland.
They got Bears in the playoffs. Definitely.
So I just don't see Portland making the playoffs or the Timberwolves because I think they both have problems on their team.
And that's sad. Minnesota's really talented.
Okay. Well, despite what everyone said about the Blazers, I actually have them as my 8th seed. They won't be playing the Pelicans 82 games of the season. So
you have the Pelicans missing the playoffs.
Yes, I have the Pelicans and
wow, that's crazy. Breaking news. You must have AD getting injured for the season.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll explain in a minute. Okay. I have the Pelicans and the Timberwolves missing the playoffs. I think the Blazers get in. They don't really have a lot of wing depth. We always say every year, the Blazers are going to fall off. Even when they lost to Marcus Aldridge, we didn't think they would make the playoffs. But, hey, Damian Lillard and McCollum, they always find a way to be, high in the playoff seeding. And despite getting swept last year in the playoffs, they were the 3rd seed in the West, So, many people forget that. But, again, they're not going to be playing the Pelicans every game. So, I still think they have enough there to make the playoffs. Nurkic is still a good center and contributor for that team. They brought in Seth Curry, who I think was a solid addition to help out on the wing. And they got Gary Trent Jr. as well and a couple other guys, that can contribute there. So I have the Blazers. That's my 8th seed. The reason I didn't pick Minnesota and the Pelicans, I don't think the Pelicans are going to be healthy enough to make the playoffs. If Anthony Davis can give you 75 games, then I think they can get in there. But not just Anthony Davis. People forget Drew Holiday has a history of injuries as well. Last year was his best season as far as health-wise. He played 81 games last year. And the season before that, he played 60, 50. He missed a lot of games in those previous seasons. So, if they stay healthy the entire season, I can see them getting in. But I'm not banking on Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis, playing a full season like they did last year. They played pretty much most of the games last season, and they were able to get the 6th seed. But they did lose to Marcus Cousins, so I think he sort of helped them out more in the regular season, keeping Anthony Davis away from playing the center position. So he's going to be the primary center now on that team. And I don't think they have a lot of center depth behind them. They did bring in Julius Randle, and they still have Mirotic there. But that's why I have the Pelicans missing the playoffs. As far as the Timberwolves, I actually think Jimmy Butler is going to be traded around the trade deadline this season. There's been reports leaked about him not, getting along with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. I kind of think Wiggins has sort of been a disappointment based off the hype that he had coming in, with his draft. He's being hyped as a big superstar. But honestly, I can't see Wiggins becoming a superstar in the league. So I just don't think Jimmy. I think Jimmy already has his mind made up that he's going to leave next season after this. He didn't sign the extension that they offered him. They offered him a big contract extension around $100+ million, and he turned it down. So I think Jimmy is set on leaving next summer and possibly teaming up with Kyrie somewhere. But I don't think the Timberwolves make the playoffs just because of the dysfunction that they already have before the season even starts. And I kind of think Tom Thibodeau is a little overrated as a coach.
I agree.
He's still getting a lot of credit for the Bulls years when Derrick Rose was an MVP caliber player, and when they were winning 60+ games over there. So I think Thibodeau is being a little bit overrated, and I just don't think Timberwolves game. What do you guys think about me leaving the Pelicans out?
Well, I just want to speak about. You said they have no center depth. The Pelicans, number 13, cheeky something. That guy put up some heavy numbers during the end of the year, and even in summer league too. He's been This guy can rebound and block shots. He's undersized as a center, about 6'9.5", but he plays bigger than his size. So I think they're going to be okay in the middle.
And I also disagree that New Orleans won't make the playoffs. I don't know why you have it like that. I understand some of your reason I heard, but it seemed like a lot of it is based on if Anthony Davis get injured.
Right.
Or what if he stays healthy? You know what I'm saying?
He did
I think
last year.
they're a guaranteed playoff team. Honestly, I think they can be sneaky good, slip into like that 6th spot. I wouldn't be surprised if they were 6th seed. Like I said earlier, I had them fighting between the Spurs and New Orleans, and I had New Orleans as my 6th seed. If you're gonna say what if Anthony Davis get hurt, we can say that about everybody in the West, with the exception maybe of Golden State. If they lose the best player on their team, they won't make the playoffs. With the exception of Golden State, I think that applies for everybody in the West. I think your theory is based on a lot on injury to AD. But if AD plays 65 and up, as far as the number of games, I've seen New Orleans making the playoff easy and not fighting for the 8th seed. I see them more of a 6.
And that's fair. You have a good point. I don't agree that if he only played 65 games that they make the playoffs, but I think he played around 75 games last season. So I think he has to be around there. If he can get to around 75 games again, back-to-back seasons, then I can see them beating out the Blazers and making the playoffs. But I just don't think I don't know how to fit with him and Julius Randle. We got to see how that's going to work. I do think him and Mirotic is a better fit on the court together. But
that's a nice pairing.
If Julius Randle and Anthony Davis fit well together, then I think they could, get in the playoffs, and they would be definitely a formidable team, especially the same they did to the Blazers in the playoffs last year. But I just don't know. We also forgetting that they lost Rajon Rondo. I mean, this guy was definitely a leader in the locker room, and in the playoffs in particular, he deserves a lot of credit too for what they were able to do to the Blazers. So, we can't just forget about Rondo. Playoff Rondo is a real thing. So. I expect this Pelicans to take us a step back, even if it's a slight step. I think that's enough to them to miss the playoffs, especially in the deeper West this year where LeBron James comes to the conference. So it's going to be some good teams that's left out the playoffs, man. I just think that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up the podcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in with our special guests, Ill Will and Curt Chris the God. So stay tuned for episode 3, and Kori J is checking out.